This program is recorded and presented by Chippewa Valley Community Television.
We live in an information age, and one of the most important repositories of information in any community is the public library. But what role will public libraries play in the future, especially here in our community? That will be the topic today of From the Newsroom. We are joined today by Pamela Westby. As of March, she is the director of the L.E. Phillips Memorial Public Library here in Eau Claire. My name is Tom Giffey. I'm managing editor of Volume 1 magazine and president of the Western Wisconsin Press Club, which produces this program in association with our friends at Community Television. First of all, Pamela, I want to thank you for joining us on the show. As I said, you recently became what I'm told is the first female director of the library in Eau Claire. Prior to that, you've been an administrator for 25 years.
That's right.
Most recently down in Middleton, before that in Sparta, and prior to that in Pelican Rapids, Minnesota. I guess to start from the very beginning, how did you come to this profession?
Well, I suppose I have to blame my father for that, because he was kind of an information junkie. So he would have the TV going and the newspaper and the television going all at once. And whenever there was a question that he didn't have the answer to, he was always saying, you know, look it up, do your research, and that sort of hooked me on finding out the answers myself and delving into books and just trying to explore and discover on my own. So there's kind of a natural delight for me to go in and help others find that information on their own as well. It's sort of an empowerment tool, and that way I feel like I'm giving that power to other people, which is very rewarding.
Now, to become a librarian, typically one needs a Master of Library Science, and you have one of those from the
University of North Texas.
North Texas. Okay. Are you a Texan, or are you a
No,
a
I'm a
Northerner?
Minnesotan.
Okay.
Yeah, did my undergrad with North Dakota University of Mary, Bismarck, and then I took a number of classes online, but also some classes at the university in Texas, okay. Denton. Mm-hmm.
So what brought you to Wisconsin, and I guess more directly, what brought you to Eau Claire?
Well, after I had achieved my MLIS, I wanted to sort of branch out and find a library that could use my skills as a professional. I was an administrator in a small town that didn't require a degree, and wanted to, see how that would feel and see if I could do a little more. And that led me to Sparta, and then to Middleton. And actually, we have friends in the Eau Claire area, and a colleague of mine sort of gave me the nudge and sort of recruited me in his own way. And I'm very thankful for that, for this opportunity and the opportunity to be closer to my family. Most of my family is in Minnesota, and so it's just been a good change all around.
Having been involved in libraries professionally for 25, 27 years, how has the business, as it were, changed in that time? From conversations I had with John Stoneberg, who recently retired, he began at the library in the mid-70s, kind of pre-computer revolution. I suppose when you arrived,
Right.
Computers were a thing, but not the dominant force in the information culture as they are now.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how things have changed in that period of time.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When I started in '89, we didn't have a computer for the public to use. And I remember the first Apple IIe that was put out near the circulation desk so we could monitor it so that nothing horrible would happen to that one computer that we had that was not hooked up to the internet. It was mostly games, and I remember taking a class so that I could help the students. It was mostly students using it. And from there, I remember applying for a grant for a fax machine. And now many homes have fax machines, or now we've gone to scanning. So it's out. And then, you know, the books with pockets and cards and stamping. I remember memorizing people's library card numbers, some of the regulars, and all the card catalog was paper, of course, and microfiche when there were more current titles that were that was updated from time to time. So it's completely different. The formats are completely different. Digital books, digital audio, downloadable movies. The information is changing, or the formats are changing so fast, and the files in which they're coming to us are completely different. That being said, our information gatherers have taken different paths, are needing us in a different way. So we're needing to keep up with all of the technology so that we can help people use the different handheld devices, the databases. They're expecting that instruction. They're expecting quicker turnaround time, since things can be sent electronically and digitally instead of waiting for snail mail. The book would come in 2 to 3 days or weeks, perhaps. And now with Amazon overnighting books, they're also expecting that from the libraries too. So our delivery system has become much more robust as well. So just every aspect of our industry has changed.
You talked at the beginning of the conversation about your father being an information junkie and saying, well, go look it up in the library. And I imagine in the old days, well, if I want to know the capital of Algeria, I look in my World Almanac, I call the reference desk. Now I look on the internet. I don't need the library to do that. And that way, how is the librarian's role different? And what sorts of questions and inquiries do you get from the public that are different than they might have been in the past, when it was simple factual information that was harder to find back then?
Right. Well, not everything on the internet is true or accurate.
Very true.
And there lies the difference, and there's the conundrum that you might have when you log in to Google and you pick a website. Are you able to evaluate whether that's a reliable website? Is the information accurate? Librarians are there to help you determine that. With training, we help with information literacy. Essentially, is finding the accurate information and then helping translate that into how that can be used in your everyday life. So that's one way. Also, there are so many websites to choose from that it's really nice to have curated databases, and that's where our our very expensive subscriptions to databases help our patrons as well. So if you're a business person who wants to find very expensive issue of a journal, instead of buying a year's subscription to that, you can use our databases to find a particular article or articles on a particular topic. So we're there for not only the independent individual learner, but also for businesses and community groups who are looking to better themselves and to contribute to the community as a whole.
What are the most important skills for a librarian to have in this day and age? Have those changed a lot, or is it just applying the same skills to different sources of information and different reality?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We are interacting more with our patrons, and a lot of libraries have taken the approach to get out from behind the desk and engage the community in participatory learning experiences. So it might be an art project where they learn about the culture and the history and the background of some topic. Pick any topic, origami for instance, that might be incorporated with resources about the Japanese culture and the geography and you know, it goes on and on.
Sure.
Databases, and then we might also have a connection with someone in the community who are attendees at that particular program would be able to ask their questions or call up or email. So there's more of a holistic approach to learning and information that wasn't there before. So then there's customer service skills that need to be honed. There are getting down to the actual reference questions. So a lot of people will come in and kind of skirt around the real question that they're asking for. So it's getting down to that little nugget that what they're really here for. And helping people feel more comfortable about being in the library. I don't know what your experiences were in the library, but I think a lot of people tell me about being afraid of the librarian or being shushed by the librarian. Yes. And I remember being shushed by a librarian as an adult and trying to overcome that bad reputation is also one of the things that we even discussed in library school. So
shushing is not a prerequisite? It's not a course you take?
No, it's not.
You talked about participatory learning, and that makes me think a lot about children's programs in libraries. Mm-hmm. Traditionally are much more participatory. I have little kids, and my 5-year-old loves to run in and you know, find a book, but also find a toy to play with or find something to learn about. As adults, I think we're a little more, we hold back a little more. Maybe we go to the library to ask a question or to pick up a piece of material. What kinds of things can libraries do to get a broader range of the population to actually participate and be active, whether it be programs like you talked about it or maker spaces as libraries are pursuing? I guess what sorts of ideas do you have for our library here in that regard? Right.
Well, the staff has really done some homework on maker spaces, and that is in our near future. We're starting to collect equipment for that and creating a phase 1, 2, and 3 plan to implement that here at L.E. Phillips Memorial Library. And that is a way that people can learn and create. And that is another area in which libraries have moved to creating content. So whether it's a recording studio or a video studio like we're at right here, some of it is recording things like interviews with war veterans or family history, or maybe it's someone's book review to send to their children, reading a story to a grandchild who lives far away. There's many different ways that equipment and facilities the library can provide to help the community have a better quality of life, and also to learn about things that are participatory. Also, just the opportunity to know our neighbors a little better and to get around the table with people who are maybe like-minded, but also very diverse. Mm-hmm. So that mix that we used to see when there were larger families living under the same roof, or many generations living under the same roof, we saw a lot of information passed down or when neighbors had block parties.
Sure.
The information was passed, and what we're seeing is a lot of families are coming home and doing their thing and not getting that interaction with one another. And so the library serves that role too for communities, and also recognizing where there are gaps in services and where people need maybe a little leg up to get them through a hard time. Libraries are really the great collaborator for a community, and I think we are really positioned well for Eau Claire to be that conduit for helping to fill those gaps. We are looking to partner with anyone and everyone in the community to make Eau Claire the very best community ever.
Obviously, every library is different. It serves its community different. Its community has different needs.
Right.
In your admittedly short time here, what are your observations on how the L.E. Phillips Memorial Public Library fits into the culture here, what it provides, and maybe what it could improve upon in the community?
Yeah, we have some very close neighbors that we are reaching out to. We have some long-standing partnerships that we will continue to nurture. And then there are, we've started a list of folks that and organizations that we feel would be good partners for us. So, for example, at our corner, we can see the Boys and Girls Club, we can see Hope Ministry, there is the Community Theater Group, and the city departments as well. Mm-hmm. So those are our long-standing partners, and the museum, for instance, and some of the other entities that we could expand on would be the schools, and new partnerships is the business community. Those are just some examples. Developers who are working on mixed-use projects. Libraries really are an economic tool as well. A lot of people, when moving to a community, will assess what entities or amenities are available in the community, and the library is one of them. So if you talk to a real estate agent, they would mm-hmm. probably tell you that they use that as one of the things to bring people in to the community. So anyone who is interested in lifelong learning, anyone who's interested in information. Is there anyone who isn't? Yeah, we're there.
Libraries traditionally were physical repositories for physical objects. There was no other way you could get something to read or listen to other than going and getting it and bringing it back to your home. Obviously, that has changed radically. Mm-hmm. As more and more things go online, obviously you can check out books, ebooks in the library, you can download songs, you can stream movies. And our library, like those around the country, have moved more and more in that direction. I think physical right. circulation has probably started to go down a little bit, although mm-hmm. maybe not as sharply as people would imagine it has. But right. As we move kind of into that more digital realm, how important is it still to have a physical place that is a library that people can go to?
Right. Well, I think that people use the physical library for different reasons. You'll see some people will come in and stay at a workstation all day long using the Wi-Fi at the library, or they'll be perusing newspapers and magazines. Some people will be working on projects and just want the shared workspace, so mm-hmm. they like having noise in the background. They like having people around, so maybe they work out of their home, but they don't want that complete silence. They want to have that interaction, or they want to use our copier machine or our printers, or be able to look up something on a map, or just be able to ask a librarian for help with something. So people are there for different reasons. And when it comes to families, there's a lot of great things for kids to experience when they're at a library. And you talked earlier about kids going right for the toys and the book. And what they're finding out with brain research is that when the brain is stimulated by music, by motion, by action, and 3D objects, doing puzzles, interacting with other kids, that the brain does better.
Mm-hmm.
So just a book, and I'll say just a book, isn't enough to stimulate the brain to its full capacity. So having all of those objects, the more expensive toys that maybe you don't have a puppet theater in your home. Maybe you don't have a large kitchen setup or pretend bananas and apples, but this gives children the opportunity to experience that for a little while, and then have that change in surroundings and go back to back home again. And
librarians sometimes find themselves in, maybe battles is the wrong word, but back and forth debates over freedom of expression, access to materials, things of that nature. Are there situations you've dealt with in your career with that regard, and maybe how would you describe your own philosophy of freedom of information as a librarian?
Yeah, I think anyone who's been in library service as long as I have run into at least one situation. I've had books be challenged, videos challenged, and what it usually comes down to is someone's personal belief doesn't align with whatever message is in that book or movie. And what we try to remind patrons is that there's going to be something in the library that's going to offend you. There's always something that's going to offend someone, whether it's a romance paperback, that's offensive to some people. So just being respectful of what the world is, and that there are many different views. Some people are not satisfied with that, and there is an application process where people can challenge materials. But I think usually when we go through the steps and people realize that we are neutral ground, library is neutral ground, so that everyone can explore their faiths or their beliefs or their philosophies on their own, and that we recognize that as well, then it usually resolves itself.
When you look at measurements of how well a library is doing, circulation is obviously one, maybe the number of people that come through the door. What do you see as the most valuable measure, whether it's a quantifiable measurement or a qualitative measurement for how a library is doing, and maybe how do you plan on using those metrics here in Eau Claire?
Yeah, programming, we've gone program crazy. So libraries are really focusing on program and instruction and events. And what I referred to earlier about engaging the community, that's where that comes in, is bringing people together to talk and to learn with one another. So increasing the participation in programs is one metric that is used quite a bit, But I also see just meaningful anecdotal stories where we've helped someone discover the library for the first time, or discovered a piece of information, or someone comes back and tells us that the library has changed their life. We hear those things on a regular basis. And if we can collect some of those stories and share those with the community, I think they too will have a better understanding of some of the things that we do. Because I think there's a lot of folks out there who still think the library is a warehouse for books.
Right.
Yeah.
Real quickly, how do you get those kinds of people through the door? You know, in talking to John Stoneberg, you know, he would talk about people that maybe hadn't been in a library since their children were young,
Right.
and you know, maybe did appreciate or didn't quite fully appreciate what the role of it is in the community. What do you do to get those people in the door?
Yeah, changing our message, and I think finding out what that message should be, finding out what people want to hear. So it's the man on the street. It's getting out into the community and hearing what people have to say about where they're getting their information and what they wish the community was doing for them. And that's where the library can fill those gaps.
Mm-hmm.
In some libraries across the country, they have done mixed use space. So they're partnering with businesses or nonprofits to create a larger awareness of what they do, but then also helping them with their needs and filling a gap where the community can't fill that. So I'm still in the information gathering stage right now to find out where that niche is, but we do know that the makerspaces, there's a lot of interest in the makerspace, and we'll be taking our book bike out this summer, and hopefully people will take the opportunity when the librarians are out and about on the bikes to tell us what they wish the library was for the future. And we take all of that information very seriously, and we'll be going through all of those comments, and hopefully we'll hit the nail on the head.
Very well. Well, we'll leave it at that. My name is Tom Giffey. This has been From the Newsroom, and our guest today has been Pamela Westby, Director of the L.E. Phillips Memorial Public Library in Eau Claire. Thank you for joining us.
This program was recorded and presented by Chippewa Valley Community Television.